If you're new to sports card investing or collecting, then this episode is for you. We're going to cover all the basics you need to know to get off and running. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to a special edition episode, an episode that is going to be great for all of you out there who are getting into sports card investing or collecting for the first time. My name is Jeff Wilson. I am the founder of Sports Card Investor, a company whose entire mission is to educate people getting into sports card investing and collecting and giving them the data and tools and resources they need to be successful. And this video today is going to give you a quick-paced overview of all of the things you need to know to get started. We're going to cover topics such as the sets and brands to buy, key sets and brands for investment, the types of cards to buy, what sealed wax is, and the best way to buy cards and wax. We're going to talk about how to find good deals. We're going to tell you about online card breaking, and we're going to explain grading. It's going to be a great episode to get you started. And of course, this episode is brought to you by eBay. eBay is here for the card collectors with a trick for every trade, like advanced tools for price checking with Price Guide Beta within the eBay app, and up to 50% faster listing with Image Scan. Learn how collecting just got smarter at ebay.com/trading hub. Let's get started by talking about the sets and brands to buy. As you are starting to buy cards for investment, it's important to buy cards that are officially licensed. That means that team logos appear on the cards. And this is important because the major sports leagues have granted their official licenses only to one or sometimes a couple of card manufacturers. Other manufacturers will also produce cards from that sport, but they won't be officially licensed, so they won't feature the logos of the teams. Generally, for investing purposes, getting officially licensed cards is best. Now, as a collector, if you're just simply collecting cards because you like the look of them and want to collect your favorite player, then it doesn't matter as much. Who has these licenses has shifted around some over time, but currently, Topps has the license for Major League Baseball, meaning if you're going to go buy baseball cards, you want to buy cards that are made by Topps. The NBA and the NFL have given their official licenses to Panini. So you're going to want to buy Panini's products, of which there are many different ones under many different brand names. The NHL has given their official license to Upper Deck. And for UFC, Panini. For soccer, Topps and Panini are both producing soccer cards. Now, there are companies such as Leaf that exclusively make unlicensed cards that don't feature team logos, but they can be great for collecting purposes, just not as much for investing. Now, who has had these licenses has shifted around over time. While the companies I just mentioned have the licenses today, they haven't had them for that long. In fact, Panini only started creating basketball cards in 2009 and football cards in 2013. For much of the 1990s and the 2000s, it was Topps and Upper Deck that were the big manufacturers creating cards for every single sport. And if you grew up collecting in the 1980s or the 1990s, like I did, then you may remember other brands as well, such as Fleer. Well, they're no longer around, or Donruss or Hoops. And they actually are now owned by Panini and still released every year by Panini. In the future, sports cards are likely going to be made by Fanatics. Fanatics has made a lot of big news recently by winning the exclusive licenses, but they aren't going to start producing cards for at least a few years. So this constantly shifts around, but whatever era you're buying cards from, it's always important to buy those officially licensed cards. Now, each of these manufacturers, like Panini, Topps, and Upper Deck, they put out a ton of different sets every single year under a whole bunch of different brand names. In fact, over 100 different types of sets, hundreds in fact, come out every single year. So for example, a set would be Prism or Optic or Topps Chrome or Bowman. These are different sets. And every time a set comes out, boxes from that set become available for people to open and try to build complete sets of all of the cards in that particular set. As an investor, it's important to know the differences between these sets and which sets are best for investment standpoint. Well, one key, in my opinion, is to narrow your focus down, narrow your world. If you are not that familiar with all the different kinds of sets, then it's good to focus in on the sets which are the ones that are most popular from an investing standpoint and start with those sets first. For baseball, if you're looking for prospect cards, cards of minor leaguers, then you want to be buying Bowman and Bowman Chrome. Where if you're looking for cards of major leaguers, focus on Topps and Topps Chrome. For basketball, Prism, Optic, and Select are three of your most popular sets from an investing standpoint. But also on the high end, the rookie patch auto cards from National Treasures are considered the cream of the crop. Football is similar because it's manufactured by Panini. So for football also, Prism, Optic, and Select are good places to start. But Contenders is also a popular set in football as well with their rookie ticket auto cards. And then football also has the RPAs, the rookie patch auto cards from National Treasures at the very high end. Hockey is about Upper Deck Series 1 and 2, and in particular, the Young Gun rookie cards in those sets. And then there's also SP Authentic, which is popular for its SP Future Watch rookie auto cards. On the high end of hockey, you're going to go to the Cup. That's where you're looking for your high-end RPAs, those rookie patch auto cards that are going to command the most value in the marketplace. Now, new sets come out all the time. In fact, every single week, new sets are being released throughout the course of the whole year. And it's important to understand when sets are coming out and to keep up with the release date of sets that you might want to buy. There's plenty of websites to help you with that. Cardboard Connection is a good one that keeps release calendars letting you know when sets are coming out. So now that you know a little bit about the key sets, let's talk about the types of cards that you want to focus in on from an investing standpoint. So now that we've told you a little bit about the sets to look for, it's important that you know the types of cards to buy within each of these sets. And this can get real complicated because there are so many different types of cards. There's parallels and refractors and variations, all kinds of stuff for you to know. So let's break it down and try to keep it simple for you. So first of all, the most basic card is called a base card, and every single set has these. Every set has standard issue cards, which are the standard card of a player. That is your base card. Base cards are typically printed in high volume and oftentimes aren't that valuable as a result. But there are parallels and refractors of those base cards. What parallels and refractors are is color variations of the base card. So it's the same base card design, just with different colors or a different artistic treatment applied to the card. And some of these parallels or variations can get extremely rare and can become extremely valuable. A Prism Silver card is a parallel of a Prism base card. And if you put the two cards side by side, often they look fairly similar. But this silver card has a shine to it. It has a special finish that makes the card shiny. This is similar to refractor cards in Topps. So Topps Chrome cards will have their base version, and then they'll have their refractor version, which also has that extra shiny surface finish similar to Prism Silver. Because these cards have a premium finish, and more importantly, because they are more rare, because there are less of them printed than their base card counterparts, they oftentimes command a big premium in the marketplace. There's also different types of variations, like photo variations, where they have simply swapped out the photo that they're using on a particular card. These are often what is called short printed or super short printed. And what that means is that while there may be a lot of base cards printed, there's only a few of them that are printed with a particular photo variation, making those variations particularly popular and desirable. There's also insert cards. Insert cards are kind of a set within a set. They often will have a different type of design featuring the same players as the base cards, but with a unique design and look, and oftentimes there's many different inserts inside a set. Often inserts are less valuable than the base cards, but in some cases they're more valuable. It all comes down to how rare that particular insert card is. Serial numbered cards are part of that short printing. The parallels that I talked about earlier are oftentimes serial numbered. And what that means is that they'll have an actual number printed on the card, and they will only create a certain number of these cards. So a card that is serial numbered to 99 means that there are only 99 of those cards in existence. Only 99 of those cards will have ever been made, and they will all be numbered 1 to 99. As you can imagine, a card with only 99 of them ever made is often in big demand and can command big prices because the supply is so short, especially when you compare it to a base card that, let's say, may have tens of thousands or more printed every single year. For tips about what kind of players to invest in, from Hall of Famers to veterans to up-and-coming rookies, and the pros and cons of each, watch our next Sports Card University video called How to Find Great Deals. That will come out next Thursday. When thinking about sports card investing, it's important to understand the basic principles of supply and demand, because those basic economic principles will govern how valuable a card is or may become. That's why that base cards, which are typically printed in a very heavy supply, oftentimes don't become that valuable. Even though there's a lot of demand for these cards, the supply is really, really heavy, so the supply can outweigh the demand. Now, conversely, short printed cards, photo variation cards, parallels, refractors, those types of cards can often be very, very valuable because they are printed in a very small supply. Yet demand for those cards can be very, very high. And of course, what happens is that drives up the price. So scarcity is a key concept with sports card investing. And oftentimes when investing in cards, you want to focus on rare cards because that's going to get you the most value in the long run. Now, if you're hunting for these rare parallels, if you're hunting for these cards that are going to have the most premium value, most of them come out of hobby boxes, not retail boxes. And we're going to get into boxes and the difference between different types of sealed wax in just a moment. But briefly, hobby boxes are boxes that are sold at a premium price. They're often sold through your local card shops or online card dealers. Retail boxes are the boxes that you find at a big box store like Target or Walmart. They're a lot less expensive to buy, but the cards that come out of them are typically not going to have as much value. Now, over the course of a player's career, they're probably going to have literally tens of thousands of different types of cards if they've had a long career. Between all the different sets of cards every single year, and then all the different variations and parallels of cards within each of those sets, it adds up to a massive number of cards for every single player. I recommend generally you want to start by investing in the rookie cards of a player, because generally it's those first cards, the first year that a player played, those rookie cards are typically going to be the most sought after and have the most value. Now, there are some exceptions to that. One of those notable exceptions being in baseball, where it's oftentimes the first prospect card of a player that a lot of baseball card investors like to invest in. Since baseball has sets like Bowman and Bowman Chrome that have cards from the minor leagues, then it's that first prospect with the one in the corner that's oftentimes the most sought after cards. Sometimes there could be rare inserts or parallels that are not from the player's rookie year that still command a lot of value. But to keep things simple, oftentimes you want to look for a player's rookie cards to get started with investing in them. Now, you'll notice that many cards contain autographs or have memorabilia, swatches or relics as they're called, pieces of a player's jersey or other types of equipment captured within a card. This can often add value to the card, not always, but often. Rookie patch autographs are the key rookie card for many players, especially in high-end sets like National Treasures or Flawless or the Cup. Finding the card that has the player's autograph and a patch of their jersey in their rookie card is oftentimes the most sought after rookie card for a player. But not all autographs and not all memorabilia are alike, and they don't all add the same value to cards. For example, within autographs, there's a big difference between sticker autos and on-card autos. A sticker auto is when a player signs a sheet of clear stickers, and then those stickers are peeled off the sheet one by one and applied to the front of a card. So it looks from a distance like the player autographed the card, but if you hold it up real close, you can see that actually the player autographed a clear sticker and then that sticker was placed on top of the card. That's generally less valuable than if the player actually signed the card itself, which is known as an on-card auto. When it comes to patches within cards, patches of a player's jersey, oftentimes the number of colors in the patch dictates the value. Patches that only contain one singular color from the player's jersey are less sought after and contain less value than a patch that may contain multiple colors, such as a piece of their number or a piece of their team logo. There's also a big difference in patches between game-worn patches, which means it's from a jersey that the player actually wore in a game, versus player-worn patches, which means it is a patch from a jersey the player wore but didn't wear in a game. They just put this on and then took it off, so it could be said that it was player-worn. And those are still more valuable than patches that are not associated with a specific player, game, or event, where the card manufacturer simply bought jerseys off of a store shelf and cut them up to put into cards. That can be a big difference in price, with game-worn patches being the most sought after and valuable, followed by player-worn patches, followed by patches that are not associated with a specific player, game, or event. And you can tell what type of patch it is often by looking at the back of the card, because the card manufacturer will typically disclose that information on the back of the card. So now that you know about the different types of cards, let's talk about the boxes that those cards come out of. All cards start by coming out of a box. The card manufacturers, they create the individual cards, but then they package all of them in sealed boxes and distribute all of the cards in sealed boxes. So that is how cards originate. So boxes play a big role in the sports card hobby. But there are a lot of different types of boxes. There are hobby boxes, there are retail boxes, and then there's also the cases that boxes come in, because boxes are packed several at a time into a larger case and then sealed and shipped to stores to sell, or shipped to you directly if you buy them direct online. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of boxes and sealed products. So first of all, there's retail. Retail is what you're going to find when you walk into a big box store like a Target or a Walmart. And within those retail store shelves, when you can find the cards, they are often hard to find because they get sold out quickly. There's different types of boxes. There's cello packs, there's blaster boxes, there's hanger boxes, there's mega boxes, and then there's gravity feeds where you can get individual packs. All of these different types of products contain different amounts of cards, and oftentimes there will be different parallels that are specific to that particular type of pack or box. Now, in general, packs that you're going to buy at retail, boxes that you're going to buy in retail are less expensive, and they're not necessarily great from an investment standpoint, because oftentimes the biggest hit cards, the super rare parallels that people really love to buy that can have a ton of value, those cards are often not included in retail products at all. You can only find those cards by opening up hobby boxes. Hobby boxes are more expensive. These are the boxes that are sold through local card shops or sold direct online. But hobby boxes often offer guaranteed hits, so that when you open up a hobby box, you have an expectation that you're going to get a certain number of rare parallels or a certain number of autographs or memorabilia cards within that hobby box. So the high-end sports card investors are often wanting to buy those premium cards that are coming out of hobby boxes, and therefore hobby boxes have a lot more value. Now, if you're going to buy boxes, always buy boxes that are factory sealed. Inspect the box. Make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Make sure that it hasn't been cut open and resealed buy boxes that have the seal on it from that manufacturer. You should see that manufacturer's logo repeating on the seal that goes around the box so that you know it's original. And I always recommend avoiding buying individual packs, because pack searching and pack weighing is a serious problem. And what this means is sometimes people will open packs and then reseal them if there's not good cards inside them. Or sometimes they'll take a bunch of packs and weigh them to try to find the cards that have the memorabilia pieces within them and pull those card packs out because they know they might have more value, leaving behind only the card packs, which may not have great cards inside. So avoid buying individual packs. Focus on boxes and make sure that they're factory sealed. Now, before you buy a box, it's always good to know what type of cards might be in it. And therefore, you can use online resources like Cardboard Connections website or Beckett's website, which will give you what is called a checklist. A checklist is all of the cards in a different set so that you know when you open that box, all the different types of cards that could be in there and the chase cards that you are looking for in particular. Now, with all of that being said, buying and opening boxes, or ripping wax as it's called, is typically not a good thing to do from an investment standpoint. In fact, I never recommend it if you're going to be investing in sports cards. Ripping wax is like pulling a slot machine. Occasionally, you'll open a box that gives you an awesome hit, some sort of really rare parallel card of a big star, and that card is going to be worth far more than the amount you paid for the box. But most of the time, when you open the box, the cards that you get out of the box, if you add up their value on the secondary market, the value of those cards is significantly less than the price you paid for the box itself. So it really is like pulling a slot machine, hoping for that big jackpot to come up, but most of the time you end up losing your money. Therefore, as an investor, ripping wax is not a good idea. However, it's a lot of fun. And I open a lot of boxes. I rip a lot of wax. But every time I open a box, I know I'm doing it just for fun. I'm doing it for the thrill of opening the box and experiencing the product and looking at what cool cards I got out of it. It's a fun activity to do. It's something I recommend, but I recommend doing it for fun, not as an investment. Now, on the other hand, buying sealed boxes and keeping them sealed and later reselling them as sealed, that often can be a great investment. In fact, over time, sealed wax, buying boxes and keeping them sealed and reselling them sealed wax often appreciates more quickly and better with greater value than buying individual cards themselves. So I am a big fan of sealed wax. And the reason why this happens is because over time, sealed wax gets more and more scarce. Because if you think about it, the manufacturers create a certain number of boxes every single year. And then a lot of people rip into those boxes and take all the cards out. So as time goes on, the boxes become more and more rare. There are less and less of them available on the marketplace. Conversely, the cards become more and more common on the secondary market because people are opening these boxes, so more and more cards are coming out of the boxes and being sold in secondary marketplaces. So the cards become more common and the boxes become more rare. Basic economics, supply and demand. That means that the price of the boxes over time typically goes up as the supply goes down. The key though is you've got to hold on to those boxes sealed, and you can't have the temptation to rip them open, and that can be a really hard thing to avoid. At Sports Card Investor, we've created an awesome product called Market Movers, which allows you to track the value of cards, but also sealed wax. In fact, Market Movers tracks the daily price movements of thousands of different types of boxes of cards. And it will even tell you the value of your collection if you're starting to buy sealed wax from an investment standpoint. So if you're gonna get into sealed wax, check out Market Movers. It's a great place to start. You can download the Market Movers app from the App Store, or you can go to marketmoversapp.com for more information. So now that you know a lot about cards and sealed wax, let's talk about the best way to buy it, how you should go out and buy cards and sealed wax. Well, first and foremost, eBay continues to be the largest marketplace by far in the sports card space. And eBay offers a lot of different ways to buy sports cards and sealed wax that are listed on its website. It has auctions, it has buy it nows, it has best offers, which is where you can negotiate with someone who has a listing up for a buy it now. But be careful, especially with buy it nows, because they can often be listed on eBay above market value. What you don't want to do is just go on eBay and immediately start buying sports cards at whatever price they're listed at. Oftentimes you need to negotiate, and that's what the make an offer feature on eBay is for. But before you know how to make a good offer for any card, whether it's on eBay or through any other means, you've got to understand the price history of that card. And that's where the Sports Card Investor app comes into play. And it tells you the price history of hundreds of thousands of cards. It's a great resource when you're getting started. You should absolutely go download this app immediately. Search for Sports Card Investor in the App Store on your phone. It's completely free. And then when you get more serious about sports card investing and you really want to dive into the data, that's what our Market Movers product is for. Market Movers has everything the Sports Card Investor app has, but in a lot more depth and detail. They're both great tools to get started, so download both the Sports Card Investor app and the Market Movers app. And use those tools to understand the price history of a card. You want to know any card you're looking at buying or bidding on. You want to know what it sold for recently so that you can make a fair offer that is in that same ballpark. eBay has the make an offer feature on a lot of their buy it now listings. You're going to want to use the Sports Card Investor app or use Market Movers to understand what that card sold for recently, and then make an offer. Make an offer that's around the value of recent sales, maybe slightly below the value of recent sales in a downwards market, or you may have to go slightly above the value of recent sales in an upwards market, but make an offer, use that opportunity to negotiate, and do it based on the price data that you understand. The same's true when bidding in an auction on eBay. You don't want to bid too high because there may be others that bid you up to your maximum price. In fact, shill bidding is an issue. Shill bidding is where someone lists a card and then they'll use another account to bid their own card up at auction. So if you put in too high of a maximum bid, then you can get shill bidded. And that means that someone can keep pushing your bid up to an unreasonably high level. Once again, know the price history so you don't bid too high. And it's often a good idea to bid very late in the auction. If you can, bid at the very last second. Bid when there's only a few seconds left in the auction, because that will prevent somebody else from being able to shill bid you to artificially raise your bid price. Now, don't get discouraged if you've made a lot of offers or participated in a lot of auctions and they've been rejected. That's part of the game. Just keep going. Keep going, keep offering on more cards, keep bidding on more cards, and eventually you'll find a card at a price point that you want. Now, other than eBay, there's a whole lot of other great places to shop for cards as well. COMC, which is short for Check Out My Cards, is a great website with tons of listings, a really, really big selection. There's also sites like StarStock, MySlabs, StockX. On the high end of the market, you've got big auction houses like Golden Auctions and PWCC. Of course, you've got local card shops that sell cards for sale. And then card shows, which are going on, it seems, in just about every city all over the country. And sometimes card shows going in person can be your opportunity to find really good deals, but you also have to negotiate. Cards at card shows are often priced high with the expectation that you're going to negotiate. And once again, know your price history using the Sports Card Investor app or Market Movers so that you can make good negotiation plays on that show floor. If you're buying sealed wax, there's also some major online retailers which sell a lot of it. Check out the websites of Dave & Adams and Blowout Cards and Steel City. They have big selections of wax for you to choose from. So now that you know all of the different places you can buy cards, let me tell you how to find the best deal. Finding good deals on sports cards takes some work. It takes shopping and it takes negotiation, but it doesn't have to be scary. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of different online marketplaces for you to shop. And if you take the time to look at all these different marketplaces and the many listings on them, you'll find some cards that are priced better than others. And then you have the opportunity to negotiate. On many of these marketplaces, you can make an offer. And you can certainly do that if you go into a local card shop or if you go to a card show. Once again, it's really important to know the price history of a card so you can be making an appropriate offer. Now, within our Sports Card Investor app, we actually make it easy for you to comparison shop and know if you're getting a good deal or not. As you're looking at a card within the app, it lists all of the versions of that card that are for sale on eBay. And it gives you a thumbs up if the price of that card is within 10% of the most recent sales price. That's a good indicator as to whether a card may be a good value or not. Now, it's still important to continue to do your homework. Look at more than just the one recent sale. Go back and look at the price trend of a card to make sure that it wasn't just the last person who bought it who overpaid, which makes the market look a little bit overinflated on that card. Look at the price trend, know if it's a solid pattern by looking at several recent sales of the same card, and then feel confident going in and making an offer around that price point. Now, sometimes you want to make an offer on a card that it's really hard to figure out what that card is worth because there haven't been recent sales of that particular card. This becomes difficult, especially if it's a rare card, if it's a parallel, a serial numbered card that very, very low serial numbered, or a short print card of which very few of those cards have ever been created. What you have to do in these cases is you have to rely on what is called ratios. And what a ratio means is that you're going to compare that card to similar players who have a similar price point and have had a sale of that same card recently. So for example, if you're looking to buy a Justin Herbert card in a rare parallel with no recent sales history, then go look at Joe Burrow's card in that same rare parallel to see if it has sold recently. If it has, then what you can do is you can look at the ratio of what Justin Herbert's base cards sell for compared to Joe Burrow's base cards, and that gives you an idea of the multiplier. Then you can look at that rare Joe Burrow card, apply that same multiplier, and get an idea for what that rare Justin Herbert card may be worth. You can use this same technique to compare card values across players, parallels, and even different grades. Now, here at Sports Card Investor, our product Market Movers breaks a lot of this down for you. We have a ratio engine within Market Movers that helps you easily see the ratios between grades, players, and variations. Now let's talk about online card breaking. This is one of the most fun aspects of the sports card hobby. Breakers are companies that will sell pieces of a box, and then they'll open that box live on YouTube or Instagram. And everybody watching has bought into the break and they're cheering that a big card gets pulled and that they're the person who gets that big card that has that particular slot in the break. Now, there's a lot of companies that do breaking, a lot of big companies, a lot of really popular companies that do a really good job with this. And online card breaking is a lot of fun. I buy into a lot of online card breaks. It's great entertainment to sit on your couch in the evening, turn on YouTube, watch a live card break take place, buy into it, and hope you get that big card. And then, of course, it will be shipped to you a few days later if you do get it. While it's a lot of fun, though, it's not a good investment. It's no different than opening up a sealed box on your own. It's like a slot machine pull. Occasionally, you'll buy into one of these breaks and you'll get a really great pull and it will be awesome. And you will have really done well from that particular break. But most of the time, you end up with cards that haven't quite paid for your entry fee. It's a lot of fun, and it's something I recommend everybody try. But once again, do it for fun, do it for entertainment, don't do it from an investment standpoint. Now let's talk about grading. This is something you really need to know as a sports card investor or collector. Grading is really important, especially when it comes to investing, because it certifies the condition and authenticity of a card that you want to buy. Graders are companies that will look at a card very, very closely to make sure it's authentic, and then they'll give it a score. And when graders are looking at a card to give it a score, there's 4 key things that they're looking at. First of all is the condition of the corners. Are all 4 corners of that card sharp, or are any of them slightly dinged, which will take down the grade? The second thing they're looking for are the edges of the card. Are all of the edges perfectly sharp? Or do any of those edges show any type of wear, which will take down the grade? Then they're looking at the centering of the image on the card. Is the image on the front and the back of the card perfectly centered? Was it printed right in the middle crisply, which can lead to a perfect grade for that card? Finally, they're going to look at the surface. They're going to move the card around to look at the surface under different light conditions to see if they can find any scratches or dimples or dings on the surface of the card. And if they do, they're going to knock it down in their grading scale. A card that grades gem mint is a card that is essentially without defects, that has sharp corners, sharp edges, perfect centering, and a very, very clean surface. Now, there's lots of different companies that do grading. The most popular ones are PSA, BGS, SGC, CSG, and HGA. It is a parade of three-letter acronyms. But there's other grading companies that have come onto the market recently as well. Now, for the most part, PSA is considered to be a gold standard, especially when it comes to modern cards. SGC is popular for very, very old cards. BGS is popular for thick cards like patch auto cards. But there's things to like about all of these different grading companies. People have personal preferences. For example, HGA, which is a newer one on the market, people like the fact that they have a very custom label designs and maybe give the cards a little bit more eye appeal. Now, from an investment standpoint, PSA remains the most popular and the most valuable. Although they have definitely struggled to keep up with the demand, even having to shut themselves down from taking new submissions at different grading levels for long periods of time. That's allowed other companies like SGC to take some of their market share. Regardless of what grading company you go with, they generally all grade on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. But each grading company has a little bit of nuance when it comes to that scale. For example, PSA will grade in full grades and half grades, meaning a 1, a 1.5, a 2, a 2.5, all the way up to an 8.5. Then there's a 9, and then there's a 10. So there's no 9.5 in PSA's grading scale. PSA considers the 10 to be their gem mint grade. That is a card in perfect condition. Now, on the other hand, BGS, which is Beckett's grading service, considers a 9.5 to be their gem mint grade. But a BGS 9.5 gem mint is not as valuable on the market as a PSA 10 gem mint is. Now, to complicate things, BGS actually does have a 10 grade of their own. In fact, they have two 10 grades. BGS has a pristine 10, which is actually more valuable than a PSA 10 and more rare. And then BGS has a black label 10, which is extremely difficult to obtain and therefore very, very rare to find and super valuable. That is a card that BGS thinks is in absolutely flawless condition. Now, some of these grading companies, such as BGS, will also give subgrades. What subgrades are is they'll give an individual grade for the corners, the edges, the centering, and the surface. And those subgrades will then total up into the main overall grade for the card. PSA doesn't give subgrades. They just give one main grade for the card overall. Now, investors love graded cards. I love graded cards as an investor because graded cards ensure condition and they ensure authenticity. And if you're buying cards, it's important to know what the condition of that card is and to make sure that that card is authentic, that it's an actual real card and not a fake that somebody created. Some investors and collectors love to buy raw cards and get them graded. And of course, whenever a new set comes out, the cards are only available raw at first because people are pulling them out of the boxes and they're all raw until they eventually are sent off to grading companies and get graded. So if you want to buy cards from a set that recently came out, you're going to buy them in raw condition. Now, buying cards raw that grade well can be a challenge. These grading companies are very, very tough. They scrutinize raw cards very closely. Getting a perfect gem mint grade is not nearly as easy as you think. And if you're buying cards online, it can be especially tough to buy raw cards because you don't have the card up close to look at and inspect. So if your strategy is going to be to buy raw cards and get them graded, you've got to get really good about looking closely at the condition of a card, ideally under magnification, and understanding if you think that card is actually in gem mint condition or not. Now, some people specialize in this and they can make a lot of money by buying raw cards and then sending them off to get graded, getting really high gem mint grades back, and then reselling them on the secondary market. But it takes a lot of focus and a lot of attention in order to do that, to really look in detail to make sure your cards are going to get perfect scores. Personally, I always prefer to buy graded cards whenever possible because that work is done for me and I know that the card I'm buying is of a certain level of quality. Now, if you're going to buy raw cards, be especially careful of buying older raw cards, cards from prior to the last year. Because oftentimes, if it's a really valuable card, but it's more than a year old and it's still in raw condition, oftentimes there may be a reason why that card wasn't graded. It's possible that that card has some flaws that prevented the person from sending it off to get it graded. Now, that's not always the case because people are opening up packs all the time, and sometimes they're opening up packs of cards that are old packs from many years ago. So it may be a newly pulled pack that just hasn't gone off, the card hasn't gone off for grading yet. But a lot of times, older raw cards aren't in the best condition, so you gotta be really careful buying raw cards, especially if they're older ones, if you're doing it from an investment standpoint. Now, it's important, of course, to understand what different grades mean in terms of price and what the ratio of price between different grades is. For example, a PSA 10 oftentimes is going to command 3 to 4 more times value on the marketplace than a PSA 9. So if a PSA 9 is selling for $100 on the secondary market, then a PSA 10 of that same card is probably going to get between $300 and $400. Now that can be skewed depending on how rare the card is and how difficult it is to get a gem mint grade on that particular type of card, but that's a general rule of thumb. But understanding that is important because you need to be able to decide if it's worth paying for the grading fees if you're going to send off a card to get graded. What are the chances that that card might get a 10 versus a 9 versus an 8? And then if it gets an 8 or a 9 or a 10, how valuable does that card become? Sometimes it may not be worth getting a card graded because the condition may not be such that it has a great chance of getting a really high-end grade. Or conversely, even if it can get a high-end grade, the value may not be there to make it worth paying for that grading fee to begin with. It's also worth noting that in modern cards and cards printed in recent years, you really are looking for cards that have really good grades, ideally gem mint type of grades. But as you go back and look at vintage cards, oftentimes lower grades can still command a huge price on the marketplace because there may be very few or no cards in perfect condition from years and years ago. Population counts are important to understand. What population counts are is they're the number of cards that a card grader has ever graded within a particular grade. And you can find population reports on all of the major grading companies' website. If you go to their website, you can go into the population reports, you can search for a certain card, and it will tell you how many of that card have graded as a 10 versus a 9 versus an 8, etc. The population of a different card in different grades has a major impact on the value of that card in the secondary market. An older card, of which only a few of that card exist in perfect PSA 10 condition, is going to be mega valuable most likely if it's a sought after card because of the fact that the perfect PSA 10 of that card is so rare to find. It has such a low population count in the population report. Conversely, a modern card or even an ultra modern card, a card that came out like last year, for example, there may be a ton of that card in PSA 10 because the printing processes are better these days and people keep their cards in better condition these days. So oftentimes for your modern and your ultra modern cards, PSA 10s or gem mint grades are more expected than they are for the older cards. Now, if you want to submit cards to grading, one of the easiest ways to do that is to go through a bulk submission grading service. And we have one of those here at Sports Card Investor. By submitting your cards through our bulk submission grading service at Sports Card Investor, you're often going to get lower prices than you're able to get by going direct to the grading company. And we also provide a very important service, and that is free pre-screening of your cards. So when you send us cards you want graded, we'll actually inspect them, look at each card individually, and if we find cards that have some flaws that you might not have seen, we'll let you know and tell you if we don't think it's worth grading those cards. So going through a bulk submitter can be really, really good for those reasons. If you're interested in submitting cards for grading, check out our Sports Card Investor grading service by going to sportscardinvestor.com and clicking on grading in the main menu bar. Now, one last thing to mention, there have been some instances, not a lot, but there have been some instances where cards that have been fake or have been altered, such as trimmed or the patch within the card swapped out, have gotten past the graders and have gotten graded. Now, companies are getting better. The grading companies are getting better and better at detecting these, but there are some issues which still exist. You can help fight this. If you're looking at buying a card, the serial number on the card, the certification number on the card, you can take that number and you can plug it in to PSA's database or BGS's database or the different grading companies. They have a certification search on their website. Pop that number in there and it will tell you if that card is in fact a legitimate, authentic card and that there were no issues discovered with that card down the road after it was graded. Now you know the basics to get started with sports card investing or collecting, and I hope you do, because sports card investing is a ton of fun and it can also be very profitable. You can make a lot of money if you do things the right way, but you do need to know what you're doing. And we covered the basics today, but there's still a lot more for you to learn. It's important that you keep learning and you keep doing your homework and your research so that you can become a savvier and savvier investor and collector. And we're gonna make that easy for you. Every Thursday on this channel, we're gonna be putting out a new episode of Sports Card Investor University. We're gonna be digging in more detail into many, many different areas of sports card investing and collecting. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you are notified when new episodes come out. And also go right now and download the Sports Card Investor app and the Market Movers app in the App Store on your phone. Both of these apps are going to be invaluable to your journey into sports card investing and collecting. Again, the Sports Card Investor app and the Market Movers app are the two that you want to grab. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and we'll notify you when our next episode is released in just a few days. Take care.